Hey y'all, this is Julie at Two Chicks Quilting in Ganado, Texas, and I wanted to hop on today and do a little demo on how to put facing on a quilt. So we get in a rut of always doing binding the same way on our quilts, and sometimes we just have a quilt that needs a little different finishing. So I am working on this was a Tilda pattern. This is a free pattern. It's called Flower Vase. And I used the 10 Sisters Easy Piecing Grid to make it. This is 1/2 inch finish. So each one of these little squares is 1/2 inch. I look at this, something like this, more as a piece of art. So I want to hang it up and I don't want to see anything on the edge of it taking away from the design. So I want a nice, clean, finished edge. So that's why I want to add a facing. Sometimes when you add a binding and roll it over, it cuts into the design of whatever you're working on. So if that's the case and you have some pretty curved piecing or something that comes really close to the edge and you just want to make sure that that binding doesn't interfere with the look of your quilt, then or your wall hanging, then a facing is the thing to do. So we're going to talk about how to do that. So as you see, well, let me turn it back to the front. As you see here, I have 3 sides already attached. Facing's an easy way, the way I do it. I was taught by Adam. Adam's so fun, so I have to give him credit of how to do this method. I do not attach my pieces together. So these are 4 different strips. I've cut 2 to match the same length as my sides, and I have sewed those down using a 1/4 inch seam. Notice this is a little bit wider than most bindings. I did cut my strip 3 inches. So it kind of depends on what your finished product is. If it's something bigger, maybe you want to do a wider strip, like maybe 6 inches. So when you roll this over to the back, it's a little bit more than that. So it's a little larger piece on the back. But this whole piece is going to roll over to the back and give you a nice finished clean edge. So then it will look like, now this isn't stitched down, but it'll look like that in the back. I was a little bit picky about how I did this because the fabric I have on the back of this is directional. So I made sure that when I attach my pieces that they're facing the right direction. And I cut them to where the little design was, you know, going up and down, and then I turned it and cut it the other way for my ends. So, you know, just that's something I paid attention to this time, not necessarily something that you have to do every time. But once I cut my strip 3 inches, I folded it in half and I pressed it. Then I took on each side and I cut it the exact length of my little quilt here, and I attached it with a 1/4 inch seam onto the front of my my quilt. The next step is to do the 2 ends. Now I've already flipped that. I'm going to go ahead and turn it right back out. I did the end here. I'll turn it around so you can see this end. I'm going to press that back down so it will stay down while I'm trying to show y'all this. And this piece is cut slightly shorter, so about a 1/2 inch on either side shorter than the end of my quilt. So then I'm going to line my raw edges up, and I'm going to sew all the way across here, all the way to the edge, and I'm going to backstitch. I'm going to backstitch on all 4 corners, okay? So then you're going to end up with your end looking like this. So you have it all sewn on. The next thing I did was I clipped my corner. That just removes some of that bulk out of there. Be careful not to get down onto your seam, so just barely clip that corner. Then when you turn it right side out, you flip your corner out, gently push the corner out to a point, or as close to a point as you can get, and then you are ready to press this. So, are we okay? So I've pressed that corner out, and I am ready to start pressing it. Now I'm using the Loristar, and I'll tell you why. Because with this thick quilt here, to try to get that to roll over where you can't see any of that binding, you have really got to press it and use steam. So that's what I'm doing here. And I have do the top again. Now that raw edge of, I'm going to steam my glasses up. That raw edge of this piece just tucks right into that side piece. Now, if you're using just a regular iron, you want to make sure you use steam and a really hot iron, because you don't want this facing rolling around to where you can see it on the front. Then you are going to hand stitch. You're going to hand stitch that facing down. If you're using a wall hanging, just going to show you how that edge finished. So it finishes really nice and clean. If you were just doing this for a wall hanging and it's not going to be laundered, you could use a steam-a-seam wonder tape under here to tack this down, or we're going to simply take a needle and thread and do a little hand stitching all the way around that to finish that off. But that is how to put a facing on a quilt. And I needed to do this one to get it entered in the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. So I thought, why not show you guys how to do it at the same time? So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.